This is a super rich set of readings that we have today, and we don't really have time to go through all of it, so I'm going to be somewhat quick. The first reading in its fullest form is, let's see how many verses. Too many, I can't even count because it's all broken up. It's got to be at least maybe 30 or 40. So you actually heard the short form today. The common themes linking the gospel in the first reading is that you have elders who are corrupt, the situation of adultery, and the tension between God's sense of justice and mercy, and how are those things realized. In the first reading, the woman is entirely innocent. In the gospel, she's not. She actually is an adulterous woman. But the focal point is really the elders. In the first reading, the elders who are trusted and authorities on the law, and so people just take them at their word basically straight up, they, filled with lust, try to sleep with this woman, and she, protecting her chastity, shrieks and then gets falsely accused by them. The elders in the gospel who are trying to condemn this woman actually caught in the act of adultery, their brokenness is that they have a lust for blood because they hate Jesus and they are trying to put him to death. And so it even says in the gospel, they said this to test him. And the word in the Greek test isn't like midterm exam. It's to snare, to trap the person so that they could have some charge to bring against him, meaning so that they could put him to death. So their lust is a lust for blood. And because they are elders in the community, the people will take them at their word. And keep in mind the context. It says that Jesus is teaching in the temple area. So there's a huge crowd of people. And in the midst of this, let's say, mob of people, the Pharisees come and drag this woman and plop her in the center. So this exchange is extremely public. So you can feel the pressure and the tension mounting, just as it was in the case with Daniel. So rather than spend too much time on the spiritual value it has for us, because what it means is that God is both just and merciful, I really want to just actually unpack the passage because it's frequently misunderstood. So let's just walk through it briefly. So they bring this woman, they stand her in the middle, and they say, this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. Now, in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Why are they saying this? Because in the previous chapter of John's gospel, Jesus accused the Pharisees of being selective for their own convenience, which laws of Moses that they followed. So he essentially attacked their own credibility in a public forum about whether they really were sons of Moses. So now they're going to trap him by showing themselves as true sons of Moses. You know, the law of Moses commands that we stone such women. So what do you say? How is this a trap? The Mosaic law values the integrity of marriage because it is the foundation of society. The law of Rome doesn't care all that much. But what the law of Rome does care about is you can't kill people unless it's under Roman law. Capital punishment is only allowed under Roman law, not under Mosaic. So if Jesus stands there and says, stone her to death, they can go to Rome and say he did capital punishment and violated the law of Rome, and therefore he should be put to death. If in front of all these people he says, don't do the Mosaic law because it's contrary to Roman law, then he's going to lose his own credibility in the eyes of all the Jewish people gathered. So he can't win here. So he bends down and he begins writing on the ground. In recent history, there's a little tradition that has developed that he's kneeling there writing the sins of the Pharisees. And then eventually he's going to stand up and say, he who is without sin, throw the first stone, and they see all their sins written in the sand and they feel convicted, so they drop their stones, they walk away. I do not believe this is what is going on, nor do I think that has really any evidence in the Gospels. They are filled with a lust for blood. They are not going to be convicted in their conscience. They are going to go forth from here and they're going to try to put him to death. These are not people who feel guilty. Also, they are Pharisees. They are absolutely convinced of their righteousness. Even Paul, when he's talking about his time as a Pharisee, will write about himself, I was utterly blameless in following the law. Like, that is how they think. So Jesus isn't going to write their sins, and they're going to look at that and be like, you know what, he's kind of right, so maybe we're not approaching this the right way, and they're going to leave. That's not what's happening. I think what's happening is they've created an enormous amount of pressure, and by him doodling on the ground, he's showing, you are not in control here. I do not care about your trap. This is irrelevant to me. You have no authority over me. And then he stands up, and when he says, let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone, he's actually taking their trap and he's trapping them with it. They know that he doesn't think they're without sin. They've been called a brood of vipers, whitewashed tombs. He's accused them of all kinds of things. So he doesn't think that they're sinless. So they now have to defend their sinlessness. But if they do, that means they have to stone her to death to demonstrate publicly that they are without sin. But if they do that, now they're in trouble with Rome. But if they don't do that, then they are publicly confessing that they're actually not as sinless as they present themselves to be. So now they're trapped. And so the elders begin to say, this isn't worth it, and they leave. And they walk away. And what is left is God and how he actually handles sin. With mercy, but also honest accountability. And that is the way of things. That is the beautiful way of our Lord. And it is the wisdom of Christ who can, in a moment, in a hot seat, in a public forum, remain still and faithful.